Hey everyone, this is Cameron from Renegade Animation on renegadepopculture.com. If you like what we do, please give us a like, a follow, and a rating on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to us. We are everywhere. Make sure to share out our episodes, and if you can, consider supporting our Patreon. That way we can keep doing what we love, and that's talking about the wild world of animation and the fall 2024 anime season. And now on with the show.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Renegade Animation on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host this evening. Joining me, as always, is the animation guru himself, Cameron.
Howdy, howdy.
And joining us once again, we've got Teresa.
Hi, everybody.
And yes, it is now time for the fall 2024 anime impressions. I'll just say this right at the top. 31 shows is it was daunting, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of meat to be discussed on this podcast. But before we get too deep into that, Teresa, I want to start with you. What were your general impressions of this season?
I think it was not as strong as some of the other seasons of the show this year, but I still think there was a lot of bangers on this one, and I definitely think it was really easy compared to some where I maybe was crying about the number of anime I had to watch. Like this one was pretty easy to get through everything, nothing like too objectional. Thank goodness. Most of the ones, if I didn't like it, it was just because I was bored. So considering there are 31 shows, I mean, that's pretty spectacular that we got as many good ones as we did. But I definitely thought with that number, we would hopefully get a bit more. I mean, just because I want shows to make it, I want good shows to keep going. So it's slightly daunting if you're a completist and you want to watch like all the new stuff, but definitely a decent season.
Cameron, what about you?
Oh boy, man. Like, with a lot of the current events going on in the world, I almost burnt out trying to watch a lot of these. And I think my patience has officially started to drop to tolerating bad anime. Like, I know some people are like, this is the hottest trash that y'all should watch because it's hilariously bad and it's bad in a fun way. And it's just like, I don't think we should keep doing that if they're going to keep releasing so many anime every season. Whether there's the fantasy anime that has outwardly revealing fetishes from the writers, or just shows upon shows not doing anything with their premise or hook, or the fact that some of these really do feel like they're being made just for the sake of profits. And I mean, yes, all anime is made for profit and merchandising. They want every show to star, like, to push models, statues, cards, figurines, CDs, music, or just like whatever. But at one point, there is just too many anime getting made. I think this is the starting point of where the problems with the industry are starting to really, really show. And maybe that was more of a sign back in 2021 when we had stuff like Tesla Coil and X Arm. But I feel like it's now unavoidable. Like, the fact is that there's too much coming out. This felt more like a summer season than a fall season. It felt like a combo of the two, like a little mocktail of fall and summer, where the bangers were still good, which represents the fall season, but the bangers were also more experimental, which is comes from the summer season, which that's how I usually relate to that specific seasonal drop in anime. And yet there were more bad shows this season than I think any other season this year I have seen. And granted, I think I would only say one or two of them would be in my bottom 10 of the year. But even within all of this chaos and the anime industry doing intense damage to itself with how it treats its animators, all these amazing creative people still come through and we still get a lot of good anime. So that's my long-winded take on how I felt this overall season.
There's a lot in there that I kind of agree with as well. The idea of this being sort of a combination of summer and fall for better or for worse. This is just one of those years where fantasy genre in particular is one that I'm growing the most tired of because so many of these shows keep repeating themselves, even if they're completely different creative teams. Once you watch that first episode of some random plot in another world, you kind of know exactly where the story is going to go from there. But like you said, every season is going to have its bangers. And by the end of this podcast, will be our usual top fives. As far as like the themes of this season, there's a lot of interesting things to talk about. Like so many different shows talking about grief and loss, and even a lot of shows that are very anti-capitalist. One in particular is, we'll get to that when we break down the genres, but overall, I can't say I've seen anything quite as bad as X-Arm or some of the other garbage shows we've talked about in seasons past, but I will agree that this is the point where the industry really needs to get their stuff together and make some serious changes.
So, just to go over the anime we watched for this season, just so anyone's curious, we watched Dandadan, Dragon Ball Daima, Demon Lord 2099, Blue Mibro, Mecha Ude, Mechanical Arms, Magia Lumiere, Magical Girls Incorporated, Loner Life in Another World, I'll Become a Villainess Who Goes Down in History, Let This Grieving Soul Retire, The Most Notorious Talker Runs the World's Greatest Clan, The Do-Over Damsel Conquers the Dragon Emperor, The Healer Who Was Banished from His Party Is in Fact the Strongest, Goodbye Dragon Life, Nina the Starry Bride, Haiga Kura, The Stories of Girls Who Couldn't Be Magicians, Ranma Half, You Are Miss Servant, Tying the Knot with an Amagami Sister, A Terrified Teacher at Ghoul School, Acro Trip, Puniro is a kawaii slime, Blue Box, 365 Days to the Wedding, Yakuza Fiance, Sumaso, How I Attended an All Guys Mixer, Orb on the Movement of the Earth, Negative Positive Angler, Trillion Game, and Kino Koinu Mushroom Pup. Oh boy, man. Let's talk about our first takeaway. Magical girls are back? Question mark. Exclamation point. This season had 3 different magical girl shows, and they were all different. They had their own identity. Like Acro Trip was more about a fan of magical girl stuff who just happens to start working with the bad guy to be more of a threat to the magical girl in her town. Magie Lumiere Magical Girls Incorporated is a world where magical girls is a career, and
The stories of girls who couldn't be magicians.
is basically a vibrantly beautiful witch school, which, yes, I know some people will be like, this is just like Little Witch Academia, but it has its own amazing visual style and identity to differentiate itself. It makes for a good companion piece to it. And this is what I like in anime. I don't mind that people want to make a magical girl show. I mind that they all have a different identity and personality to them. You cannot compare and contrast these 3 shows and say they are all the same.
Oh no.
And I just think that's so much fun. Just there's a new life in some of these shows. And the Acro Trip one is like a much better version of that really fetishy Magic Girl etchy series back in the winter season. Like, I forgot what the name was, but it was just like it got really creepy really fast.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more fun to see what that show was trying to do with a girl who is fond of magical girl stuff, like happens to work with the bad guy. Like the moment I saw that the bad guy's henchmen are these goofy looking little bears, I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. I had a great time with all three of these shows where I would want to see all of them from beginning to end to see where they would go.
Yeah, same. I have no idea yet which one of these three will end up in the top five. I just know that I had a really good time with each one because they were so different, yet still kind of embodied the spirit of like the classic magical girl transformation anime
Mhm.
from our childhood, basically. Anyone who grew up watching Sailor Moon and hasn't heard of any of these shows, I would say give them a watch. You will probably find a lot to enjoy.
For sure. Yeah, I watched all of them. I would say that the magician one is probably the one where I have less urgency to watch it, but I did like it. And I like, the idea of like a magic school type situation. I think I just lean towards the ones in the real world, like more adult problems, just naturally, just like with my taste. But I thought all three were like really strong, really unusual animation that like shows creativity and like why, glad that there's, adapting this trope. I also thought that the idea that there's competing magical girl companies was like just an idea I never would have even thought of because I just think like magical girls in the city, they run the whole city, but like what if there's more than one and people wanted to make money off of it? I think that was pretty cool. The Magic Luminary, the one that we were thinking of that we didn't like from the winter is called Gushing Over Magical Girls, which got too suggestive with girls who looked way too young because they're
Hmm.
supposed to be in elementary school and all of these are like high school age or up, even the Magic Academy. I mean, they've already gone to prep schools, they're older, and they're growing up to be in school and like become magicians. So it's less skeevy and it's more wholesome, definitely. I think the magicians one is just like the most wholesome of the magical girls shows.
It's funny to see how many of these three shows all have incredible animation to them. And you can tell that the animators or whoever the animation director or just the director in general was, like the team was having fun. You can tell when a studio is invigorated and excited to be working on a show, and the animation shows off with that. And like you got the more dynamic action of Magic Lumiere or the vibrant, lush beauty of the story of girls who couldn't be magicians, or the zany comedic animation of Acro Trip. I love the fact that Acro Trip is all about how this lead character is in a town where nobody cares that they have a magical girl.
Yeah.
It's just like it's like an annoyance. It's like a dragonfly splatting against your windshield. And it's all because the villain sucks. He is terrible at his job.
Yeah.
He cannot be any more threatening, even if you gave him like a gun that could kill God. He
Yeah.
would still be the most pathetic person on the totem pole of villainy.
Yeah. He reminded me of the Prince and Howl's moving castle if he like literally never learned magic.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, no,
It's
that's
like, what do you do? Nothing.
and it's just a delight. Or and how like I've heard some people say the story of girls who couldn't be magicians is blander, and I really don't agree with that. Just because I know everyone is enthralled with Little Witch Academia,
No.
but I think there's enough personality to differentiate itself from Little Witch Academia, where there was. I love the fact that there's an opera singing magical student, and then there's one guy who is incredibly obsessed with trains, and one who wants to be like a reporter and such. And it just looks amazing. Like, wow. And I saw this take go around just as a joke. Negative, positive angler, and the story of girls who couldn't be magicians showed that not all the best animators went towards Don to Don.
True.
I get that like super popular titles are going to get the budget and the resources to look as amazing as they do, but it's nice to see that like not everyone's like, okay, well, if I can't work on Don to Don, I'm going to work on this one and I'm going to make it look amazing.
Those shows all look incredible.
I was just gonna say that I think that there was space in the season for those like slower burn like anime, and it wasn't too slow, I don't think, in the Magicians one. I just think it's just a different pace because they're not trying to, they're not trying to, it's not life or death because they're like in school. And I just thought it was cute.
And I like that it's just like, okay, well, you might not be magicians, but you can still learn magic to help in life. That's cool. That's a
Yeah,
very
good
monsters.
message.
Yeah, it's a very monsters university moral of the story
Yeah.
kind of thing where you can be successful and you don't need to go through one direction to do so. Next takeaway or question. Let me ask this. Has your patience for bad anime increased or decreased as time has gone on as we have done these anime season discussions and just talking about our impressions? Because for me, I think the fact that so many fantasy isekai shows are not doing anything, or there are some shows that are just doing the bare minimum to be appealing, like Blue Mibaro. And I am finding myself not tolerating them by the second episode. I'm usually ready to give up on them by the third episode, but here I'm just like, I don't think the 3 episode rule is working on me anymore. Like Teresa, what do you think?
Yeah, I feel like when it's bad or if I know like this is just gonna bore me, that I can tell honestly by the first episode, and usually I'll do two to be like, what if there's a twist, or something like that. And then three, I've definitely like when I don't like it, I've noticed I'm looking at the description more of the next ones. But when it's a show I do like Maggie Lou Mary, I don't want to know what happens next. I just want to watch it and like ride the wave. But when it's bad, I'm like, what's the next one? Like what's happening here? What I need to mentally prepare myself. So definitely my patience has gone down, but also my tolerance of like it's almost like it just goes into the bucket compared to like before when it was like really shocking or they're being really gross, gratuitous like women stuff like in the other magical girls one. I was like, well, yep, that's another gross one. So it also desensitized me on the other side of it, which is not necessarily great.
Mike, what do you think? Like, what's your takeaway on this?
I guess I can slide in one of my takeaways from that we talked about off air is if you're not going to be good, at least be funny. So I was able to power through the first 3 episodes of everything on our list, but I could tell which ones I was just not having fun with at all. If I was just not like locked into what I was watching, if I was getting distracted or something, I could just tell that even after like the second episode, I'd be like, I'm definitely not feeling this one. Even some of the bad shows, I might still get some enjoyment out of it if it's animation errors that make me laugh or an actor in the English language dub that I enjoy making the most out of bad material. But like on the whole, I would rather watch good shows than bad shows. But again, if you're not going to be good, at least be funny.
I think it's just the fact that so many shows, as I mentioned already, are not going the distance, or maybe it was just a bad adaptation, which I understand. What sucks for the fans of the manga, that it's like, wow, this does a terrible job of adapting the source material that I love. But like, there's something like Blue Mibro, one of the two period piece dramas anime this season, where It's just a group of boys and guys with swords, and it's yet another adaptation of the time period with the Shinshin Gumi. And it doesn't look good. I do like the lead, but everyone else is so bloody cookie cutter. And listen, I think I am now so sick of villainous and damsel do over stories. Why aren't they? Are we at that limit where nobody knows what to do anymore with this premise? Because the damsel and villainous type stories are starting to be repetitive, boring, and dare I say, even more tiring than a bad isekai. Especially with something like I'll become a villainess who goes down in history. Cool, it got a dub. But boy, howdy, by the second episode, does the animation quality drop and all the characters are just not compelling enough to
I'll,
sit
I will
through.
say it's not as compelling. And then also I was like, why is she still young?
That was the question I had. Like by the end of the second episode, like, so they're gonna finally age her up, right? Right? And then it just never happened.
Like, I'm sure it's going to happen and later on, but I don't
I'm
care.
not
So
gonna
I
be a
don't
fan.
care about the point when she does. And the show isn't good looking enough to make me want to tolerate sitting through that. Like, the do over Damsel Conquers the Dragon Emperor almost gets away with being a good show. Like, it has solid animation and some interesting twists and turns on the damsel slash villainous storyline until the fact it comes up that the Dragon Emperor and his one major gag, at least until the third or fourth episode, is the fact that he doesn't get how he comes off like a pedophile.
Yeah.
And that was his one joke throughout watching the three episodes. And as much fun as it was to see at the beginning, where the sociopathic murderer is like this doofy Labrador retriever male lead, and being stuck with this one gag was like, no, I don't care if they downplay it more. I don't think I will want to or will commit to watching more of this. At least something like Suma Show, which had like the premise that made everyone on the Dead Bird Twitter website like go off the rails because of how the premise sounds.
On paper, it sounds bad. Yeah.
It does sound bad, but then it's like, okay, I'll see what how this goes. And when I saw how, like, I mean, we'll talk about this with the next takeaway of just how so many shows this season had a lot of thematic
Mhm.
similarities of the father and daughter dealing with the loss of their wife slash mother and are going through this by talking to her as she was reincarnated as a 10-year-old girl. Like, it sounds like, oh, yikes. And listen, I understand why anime fans get uppity about reactions from the outside sphere of non-anime watchers when they hear premises like this. I get it. When they don't watch it and they judge everything based on the premise, it sounds terrible. But also, anime fans and like influencers, you need to understand the reason people freak out about this kind of stuff is because anime has a lot of this kind of creepy, skeezy stuff.
Hmm.
Like, I wanted to like a terrified teacher at Ghoul School more. And as I watched the three episodes, yeah, I was enjoying it enough. But I got so sick and tired of the teacher being a slightly creepy individual about his fetish of male and female school uniforms and how he was just constantly wanting that one girl to stop wearing pants under the skirt. Like, yes, I get it. It's a dress code violation, but it's still a teacher going after a student and saying, "Hey, take off your pants." There's no way for that to not come off as ick. And and maybe some of these shows are just kind of, bad time to be released. I found myself just not liking Trillion Game as much. It's like, yes, it should be fun. It's con artists BSing their way up the ladder to become rich, but they're not doing it to take down the social hierarchy of how the rich feed off of the poor. They want to be the big kids who can be on the big kids swing on the playground with the other big kids. And our leads, I just don't like them. If this was released in any other time period than right now, maybe I would have liked it. But I just really had my patience tried, despite some really good English dub performances and a banger of an opener and ending song.
I mean, I was dead set against it. Like I was like, this is going to be the one where I'm like, I'm gonna have to turn it off. And I could watch all 3 episodes. So that was, I don't know, my expectations were probably really low. Also, I feel like at least the show is like making fun of tech bros. So I thought that was like a plus.
I was kind of thinking the same thing. Like the way that Cameron described it before I started watching it, I was like, oh no, is this going to be like that one show that like everyone else likes, but we're kind of like, not for me. But maybe it is a little bit of dub bias because the guy who voices the partner, I think did a really good job.
Definitely.
Those two voice actors really kind of made the show what it was. But I also understand if you're just not in a mood right now to root for con men who fake it till they make it, I completely understand if you just don't want to watch something like this right now.
And maybe it's just because I was rooting for it to be a different show than what it was. Like, it tries to have its commentary about how the rich are terrible, but the leads also want to be the terrible rich people. Since so many of the richest people on earth are all about abusing and taking advantage of the less fortunate, and it just seems like people like the owner of a certain dying social media website is just faking it, like BSing his way up the ladder. It's not a fun watch. Something like tying the knot with an Amagami sister. It's funny because I remember last year or so, we were absolutely down for like romance anime going back to the early 90s, 2000s era of rom-com anime or like harem anime. But I was really hating the three main characters and just how I know how this is going to play out. And the girls who, yeah, sure, they're cute and whatever, but their personalities suck.
Yeah, they were annoying
And
for
then
sure.
they're like, oh, wow, we were really terrible to this guy whose family died. And it's like, yeah, no kidding. You gave him no time to explain his living situation and just ragged on him because he's a guy. And listen, I get it. Men can be, and I say this as a guy, men can be obnoxious and terrible, but you gotta let him explain what's going on, or at least be like, I don't know, maybe the grandpa didn't be like, oh, hey, heads up, by the way, his whole family died. So maybe, chill out.
I would almost say that the grandpa is probably the worst character of the show because even us, the audience, we have no idea what's going on until the stinger at the end of the first episode where he says, oh, by the way, this guy's going to marry one of you. Bye.
Oh, God. Enough with these
Yeah.
romance anime that throw in a harem only to then put in the countdown clock of only one of them is going to have a happy ending. Just do the 100 girlfriends thing and just be a polyamorous
Just
couple,
go all
man.
in. Just be
Yeah,
like, you'll win.
I'll find a way to clone myself so you can each have a clone of me or something. I don't know. It's just we're I don't know, maybe it's just because 100 Girlfriends broke me because it's like, oh no, this show's going to be unabashedly, unapologetically the ultimate harem experience, and yet it's still going to build upon the trash, the fun, the gimmicks, the gags that come with a harem anime, and then like commit to it.
If you're not going to be good, at least be funny. And 100 Girlfriends that was exactly what I was looking for.
The Shrine Maidens, they're like serious but like mean, and like the combination did not come off funny. It just came
It's
off obnoxious.
it's the fact that it's trying to be the old school love Hina kind of situation where all the characters are mean and unlikable, but it's supposed to be funny, but it's not funny enough to be
Yeah.
like there's a difference between Always Sunny mean funny
Yeah.
and like a show that's just mean and miserable to sit through. So, okay, next takeaway, let's move on. A lot of shows this season all had very similar thematic elements, and we can talk about like a whole slew of shows. And yet some of the ones that had overlap were really shocking, like Suma Show and oh, what was it? The mushroom pup. Yeah, Kino Koinu mushroom pup. Like, all about being the dealing with grief, moving on, and living life.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see that, or like how the thematic element of loneliness is dealt with in two different ways. You have, of course, Dandadan dealing with the fact that both of our characters feel alone despite having a common ground with one another. Or you have Loner Life in Another World, where our main character isn't alone because he's an edgy, like,
Yeah.
stupid boy.
He just likes his independence.
Independence. Yeah. He just likes being alone, and he doesn't want to deal with anyone because he thinks they're all inferior. He's just, hey, I just want my alone time, okay? Just let me be.
Yeah, it wasn't in the like incel weird way that they sometimes do in the isekai, where they're just like shut-ins and then they finally like go outside in another world. Like he's just like, I like being on my own and I don't mind being on my own here. And what was the skill? I can't remember what it was, but it was like, oh, I can like repel monsters because no one wants to hang out with me, and it turned into a power in this world. And I was like, that was clever. I like that.
Or then some, or like let this grieving soul retire. It's just the guy wanting to be alone because he's not good at his job, and he's having to deal with a bunch of people who are too stupid to realize that he's being serious when he's saying he's not that good at his job. And yet everyone is like, oh my God, this is the greatest adventurer of all time. He is the king of the mountain. He is the best of the best. And he's just like, no, not at all. Stop. And people are just being like, he's just playing. He's just joking, right? Yeah, yeah. Everyone agrees that he's just joking. It's like, oh my God. Everyone has a brain cell of one and are all sharing it. And then some shows this season had a lot of dread, underlying dread. And there was something like that with Yakuza Fiance and
Mhm.
Orb on the movements of the earth. Orb is so scarily timely for what is going on in the world right now, of how so many people just do not listen to specialists in science and are
Mhm.
just completely ignoring it for religious extremism.
Yep.
That it's a show that doesn't sugarcoat the fact that during this time period where Orb takes place in, the Inquisition was going to kill you if you didn't like God.
Yeah.
And I love that. It brings this great coming of age journey of our lead learning about the universe and how we are not, in fact, the center of it. Puts it in the fact that sooner or later, this kid might die. And then with Yakuza Fiance, which, yes, I can understand if people do not like this one, but it's like the trashy violent romance that I was kind of looking for in terms of a rom com that shook things up. Both of our characters are not great people, and there's a quite a bit of dread just wondering if one thing will go too far, especially with how the boyfriend is a sociopath and is willing to just beat the living tar out of people just because.
Yeah.
Like what are some other like Teresa? What are some other thematic similarities that you caught during this season?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely the grief and the loneliness one. I thought that was like really like it wasn't like just a little bit of like, oh, this person was an orphan at the beginning of the episode. I think there's a lot of characters who are like moving in the world alone and not having a purpose and the whole point of the show, even the Demon Lord show, the Demon Lord 2099 is like he woke up and he had a purpose, but that purpose isn't going to work out the way he thinks and he can't get he can't get the chip and he's just like, am I useless? Tell me I'm not useless. And I feel like also in Sumo Show, like I think it took the wife being reincarnated and coming back to being like, you need to live for something else. And that's really rude to your daughter. And like kind of having that like rude awakening of like you can't drift through life. And the same thing with Kino mushroom pop of like that mushroom dog was growing and it popped up because things were gonna get really scary for that guy if he kept going. That little mushroom dog has a very weird sense of comforting. But I thought, it's entertaining. I thought it was very cute. But I think the other one that I saw, just in terms of like themes where you need to have like some kind of like magical woman like come into your life. I feel like there was a lot of themes of just like women need to get it done or like you can't do it without them, especially in Ranma and a half of like when they battle and Ranma's like a girl, like she was okay with losing, but then when she finds out like Ranma's a boy, like she's freaking out. So really just exploring like those gender dynamics of like who is a hero, who saves the day, and also like marriage expectations, especially with the Yakuza one. I was just like, are they even going to make it through today, let alone like get married? Like, I don't know what's up with that. But also the all guys mixer. Every episode is just exploring like gender expectations, which I thought was great.
I thought that was a really interesting
And it
show.
wasn't a boy love show necessarily. It's exploring it in a whole nother way.
Like, granted, I'm not happy with the fact that at least the first episode there was maybe a bit too much gay panic with the
Yeah.
fact that they were like, oh man, these women are really hot as guys, but does that mean I like guys? Oh no. And then like it took was the doofy guy friend to be like, yo man, I don't know what y'all are freaking out about. This lady's cool.
I also like that one that has the hang up of like this guy is so much hotter than me. Like when they just have and like I can't my ego can't take it. And I was like, yes, more of this. Explore why you think this way. And I thought that was fun.
That was a real gem of the season. I was pleasantly surprised
I was
by
dreading
that one.
watching that one at first, and then I was like,
Well,
yeah.
let's just say anime doesn't have the best queer representation. And boy, howdy, can you see that in the most notorious talker runs the world's greatest clan, where a slave driver is coded queer. And it's just like, well,
Yeah.
it's like woof. And it is interesting to see how Suma Show takes a premise that sounds yikes, but is really compelling. Maybe it lays the melodrama with the little girl's house, like living situation, a little thick at first, but I was like,
Yeah.
I want to see where it goes. And luckily, it doesn't try to pull an Osagi drop because the manga ended. So you can look up how it ends if you want to. And there was just like a few stories about dealing with depression. Negative, positive angler. I did not know what this show was about when I jumped into it. And then I realized, oh, this is an original show made by the studio that did Decadence back in 2020. It doesn't have the same directing team, who did like One Punch Man and such. But I love the whole notion of the show is if you're feeling depressed, just push back against it if you can. Find a group of friends who will be supportive of your drive and learn how to fly fish. And it takes like a group of weirdos and oddballs who have a common hobby to find joy in life. Same with Don to Don, where our two leads are they're dealing with their own like loneliness until they find that they have an extremely a lot in common, even if one believes more in UFOs and the others believes more in ghosts. And it just so happens to be like they're both right.
The contrast between their two interests, it made for a very entertaining experience. And once again, Science Saru took that assignment and ran with it the whole way.
Demon Lord 2099 was also another surprise for me where I love the whole like instead of being reincarnated in another fantasy setting, it's the future and the future is just as dystopian as the past. It's just not with a demon lord ruling everything. And even though it has a few anime tropes I'm getting a little tired of, I did love the cast. And kudos for getting Ian Sinclair as the demon lord. He is acting his tail off. He is having a blast with his character. It helps that he's also Brook from One Piece. So he's got a good balance of serious and comedy in his acting chops.
Oh, yeah.
But I like how it runs with its premise. It's not just another power fantasy kind of thing. Our lead character is weak at the beginning. He's having to work up to regaining his powers. And I love that because for the next takeaway, is there a way for the fantasy isekai genre to be saved? Like, quick answer, yes. But this was one of those seasonal drops where the fantasy isekai really made me hate anime just because the fantasy isekai is becoming so manufactured that everything feels artificial, not in an AI way, just creatives who lack creativity making a fantasy show or light novel, manga, or whatever, just for the sake of making it because it's popular.
I know it's unfair to judge an anime based on source material, but literally every time I see an isekai is based on a light novel, I immediately go, "Oh no," because I know that a lot of the usual tropes and cliches get recycled like every season, so I'm always dreading those ones the most whenever we read these lists.
I just feel like it's a matter of tone, and like we've been saying, the track record isn't always good, but sometimes it can be really interesting, like the Mushroom Pup one, where, it's not what you expect and it like, keeps you going, but then other times it kind of turns a wrong corner because I was actually talking to my coworker about the Shrine Maiden one, and she's like, "Oh, I like that one." And I was like, "Oh, but the anime." Like, she's like, "I like the novel, but the anime is not good." She's like, "Really? How could you mess it up as, a kind of a layman?" And I was like, "You'd be surprised." They can. But, I'm always willing to give them a chance. I try to keep an open mind. I have to remind myself that we're like power anime watchers, and I don't want that to like bias me.
I am always ready to dive into a show hoping for the best. I go into that with a positive mindset. Sometimes I get surprised. Like Puniro is a kawaii slime is like first of all not a fancy show. I was shocked about that because, we have a very popular anime right now with like reincarnated as a slime. A ton of slime tamer anime out there or just like story beats that include a slime character like Campfire Cooking in Another World, but it was like a parody of like kawaii culture and the jokes that it went towards. Like, I feel like we're a little too adult for its audience, but I also give it kudos that they were there anyway.
I feel like it took it too far. It took the like bright and colorful girl too far. That was my takeaway of like when you get it wrong and you just make them bright for like the sake of it to be kind of just like annoying little balls of color. I was like, I'm not feeling this. I like it took all I had to watch the 3 episodes.
I just like watched like when I was watching the third episode, and she was just like, I'll just keep my first half out into the world. It just
Yeah.
slices herself in half. And I was like,
Yeah.
whoa. It's like,
Yeah, it
oh
was
my
that
God.
stuff. Like when she fell off the building and then she's like, even that can be cute. And I was like, no, I don't
Like,
like
I get that's the point, but like, even if that one didn't fully work, at least it did something different where I at least give kudos to Loner Life in Another World for not making another incel lead character to cater to the otaku who feel isolated in the world, which that's its own bubble that we can talk about another time.
Yeah.
But then it dives back into the dumb anime tropes that I'm so sick and tired of seeing. And I'm like, what are you doing? Stop that. Like, oh, the main like head of the school of the class like steals the ability of like horniness from a goblin, and now she's the horny female lead. And it's like, okay, I get it, but it's tiring. Or oh, which one was it? Yeah, Goodbye Dragon Life being like, okay, cool. A dragon who feels alone in the world finally dies and reincarnates as a human to live his own peaceful life. That's cool. I like that idea. But then it goes into harem stuff. And if you feel like I'm being too critical about that, there's a clip from the Crunchyroll YouTube channel that has a boob talking scene between all the female characters. And it's like, okay, anime, whatever.
And then there's that one fetish character in, I think it was the second episode.
Oh God, yeah, yeah. The town leaders or the head like fighter character's wife, who is like a demi-human cow woman, and yeah, the writer's barely concealed fetish is on display here because it's the only thing that makes her and the town leader character like stand out. It's creepy. It's not funny. Like at first it's like, "Oh, that's a weird joke. Let's not see that again." And then it keeps bringing that back. And then it's like, "Hey, lead character, will you taste my daughter's milk?" And it's like, "Oh, that's a red flag. I'm calling the cops on you. I'm calling child services, man." And then like the healer who was banished from his party is in fact the strongest. Listen, I could understand if this was like a monster tamer class or a lesser known or used Final Fantasy Tactics class from the PlayStation 1. A healer, though, you're going to get rid of your healer. Yes, he can only use one low level spell, but you
You still need
never
a healer.
and you never thought about maybe seeing what else he's good at and being like why is this lead character stuck on wanting to be a healer if he's so bad at being a healer? I mean, I get it, they do explain why he wants to be a healer, but why? It's not a good story perspective. It's not interesting or compelling. It just looks like he's a stubborn asshole about it. I'm going to be a healer even if I can only use low level healing magic. And all the other characters suck. The show does call out how bad the characters are.
But by that point, it's like, wait, it's too little too late.
It's too little too late. I don't care about the remainder of the lead character's party coming out. It's just boring. It's boring stuff. Or Haigakura. I know, Mike, you were a little more positive in your notes about this one, but I was turned off by this one. like the moment the first episode ended, it one made me think about Soul Hunter, which is a way better show from back in I think like 1999. Two, our main characters are slavers. There's no way to not look at it. And
Yeah, I was a little confused about the whole power dynamic systems.
yeah, so it's like, okay, they live in a world where the gods left for some reason. So they have to go to other worlds and steal their gods and enslave them. And it's also a show that just looked bad. This is one of those shows that makes me think the anime industry is burning itself out because the artists that they're getting are not good enough to make a show like this work. I did like the one gimmick of our lead character, but to sit through all that while just kind of questioning the fact that our lead characters are slavers by enslaving the gods that they kidnap, I was like, no, I'm fine with just watching 2 episodes and being done with this one. I don't know, man. I feel like for fantasy shows to survive, creatives need to actually, like, I don't want to say start trying and actually caring about your craft, because I know some creatives are doing their best and sometimes you it's that quote from Ratatouille, not everyone can be a great chef, but a great chef can come from anywhere. And unfortunately, I'm kind of stuck at that first half where half of the authors making these crappy fantasy series that get turned into anime are not good at their job. It's like how we have directors in the film industry that are just continuously failing upwards because of a connection or something. And it seems like if these were good fantasy series from the get go, they would have more resources put into them when a lot of them don't.
That's something I've noticed that if it's not something that's like top shelf, highest selling manga on Shonen Jump or anything, you're lucky if you even get like one season.
I mean, like some of them get more, but I'm not going to say the reason why something like In Another World of My Smartphone got a second season because, you just have to look at the cover of what the harem looks like and be like,
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yes, I think the fantasy world, like the isekai genre, can be saved. There are people who are willing to put in the legwork, but and it's like, yeah, will it actually make sense to be like, if you can't put the resources into it, don't make it? And I know that's kind of a hard thing to say and do because then it brings up the whole Lorax moral quandary of just like, well, that means I can't hire people and that means less jobs. And it's just like, well, I don't know how you fix that, but the way that the industry is going and how they're just greenlighting everything for the desperate attempt for money, I just don't know if it's worth it. And just the fact that animators are burning out, quitting, dying, and or going to other industries from other parts of the world because they'll pay better. Like I think the animation scene in China actually pays better, if I recall, than the industry in Japan. So I just want fantasy shows to be interesting. If you can be interesting, I'll deal with lesser animation quality. I'll deal with familiar setups. Just
They need
be
a script.
compelling. Yeah.
They need a real script. That's the problem, really. They just half-ass it. And then I think they focus on the character design and everything. They're like, oh, we don't have to do a good story.
Story comes first. And it just seems like that's never a thing that's on the mind of everyone who makes these shows.
Or by the time we see it, it gets watered down.
Yeah, yeah. Or it's like I was just thinking about the most notorious talker runs the world's greatest clan, and just the bad writing for that one. On one hand, very cool that a support class character is the lead character. He's not just the strongest guy. He has a support based ability that just helps make everyone else stronger while he sits in the back because he's weak, even though he's the only one smart enough to have a gun in a fantasy world. But the way the show writes its drama makes me hate the characters around them, especially the assassin chick that gets introduced. The only reason she got kicked out of the assassin or rogues guild is because she's too much of a sociopath for an assassin's guild. She's too happy killing people in an assassin's guild.
Did you not think that one through?
Golly. And just the fact that it's like, yeah, I'm going to sell my friends into slavery. And it's like, oh, God. Okay, so this one's less of a takeaway about any specific show or genre, but where are the dubs? Mike, how many dubs did you point out of the
So
31 shows we watched?
yeah, out of the 31 shows across the various streaming services, I counted eight.
8 shows, and half of them are terrible shows. Like, Don was going to get a dub. That's not a problem. Dragon Ball Daima, always going to get a dub. Orb is a show that needs a dub. Since anime is so reliant on the performances of its voice actors and its dialogue carrying the limited animation, you think a dub would make sense for something like Orb or Blue Box or like 365 Days to the Wedding or Suma Show. And yet, why does Tying the Knot with an Amagami Sister get a dub? Why does what was another one? Oh yeah, A Villainess Who Will Go Down in History get a dub?
And also, why is Christopher Sabat in that one too?
I mean, like, anime dub's a thing where you don't really have the choice to be picky. It's like if you can get the job, you get the job. Or like Mecha Ude, Mechanical Arms, that could have used a dub. Or Magic Lumiere with its lore and business setup of how it talks about the Japanese economy in the negative lights. Like, why? Like, I get it. It's a contract negotiation thing. Some dubs get made because they're either the popular show or the Japanese right holders were like, okay, we'll let you dub this show now instead of like a year from now or so. It's baffling because the good shows should be the ones like the ones that have the most excitement. Like the way people were building up Suma Show, you would think that show would get a dub, but it didn't.
The one for me that makes the least sense to not have a dub is Orb on the Movements of the Earth, mostly because it takes place in like 15th century Europe. But I kind of like what you said. It's also very dialogue heavy. And while I understand there are some people who are still very precious about the whole sub versus dub thing, which I've never really subscribed to, it should really be an option for those who want to experience this in English.
Like, I love a lot of these shows, but just because of my mental state, I was not really wanting to read subtitles. And I know people are going to be like, what about that thing Bong Joon-ho said? Yes, I know what he said. Sometimes I don't want to watch subtitles.
Yeah,
Okay?
it's late at night. We're
It's
tired.
yeah, I'm tired. I'm burnt out. Orb is too philosophical for me to read subtitles sometimes. I like it's on Netflix. Why doesn't it have a dub? Dandanon has a dub. Ranma Half has a dub. I thought with every anime that went to Netflix, we were like guaranteed a dub on release, but I guess not. And I'm not saying that as like a negative towards Orb. I love Orb and its philosophical like, storytelling. It's just why don't half of these have dubs? By the time this episode will come out, we'll be like 2/3 of the way through the fall 2024 season. And the fact that only like a tiny third of the shows have a dub is really weird. I don't know if it's a negotiation thing or a contract thing or Crunchyroll is just being dirt cheap
We're
right
running
now.
out of a budget at this state of the year thing.
Well, that's what I was thinking because otherwise, this might be the season that has the least dubs by this point as we are recording this. It's weird to be like the ones that they choose, I just won't get. Dragon Ball Daima apparently has a dub, but they just won't release it.
That one's weird because the first three episodes of the English dub premiered in theaters earlier this month, and then there's just nothing on Crunchyroll. Maybe they won't release it until the season is over, as that's kind of the tradition when it comes to Dragon Ball, that we don't get the dub until like years after the anime, but who knows? All I can really do is speculate on that regard.
Who was asking for a dub for You Are Miss Servant? A tonally weird modern take on the Mahoromatic storytelling and world. Maybe it's just because it has a small cast, and a lot of these shows have giant casts, especially the teacher at the ghoul school and such. Like, I can understand that, but I don't know, man. Orb doesn't have a big cast, and yet it doesn't have a dub. Like, I'll Become a Villain. It's like, that's a show that's going to have a huge cast. Why? I assumed whoever dropped the money on this was hoping this would be a giant hit, but I don't know, man. It's not really not. Same with tying the knot with an Amagami sister. And like Demon Lord 2099, that one's going to have a big cast.
Oh
So
yeah.
I don't get it. I want to understand it. I like, hopefully maybe one day we can like interview like casting directors and such to really dive into this situation, because I know for a fact that the people who make these shows, like who dub them and translate them, are already aware that some of these are going to be bad shows, and they're just going to do what they can to make it work. It's not just like they don't care. They know, they are aware. How many times have we seen actors, and I mean, like with this year with like Madam Web, Dakota Johnson being like, yeah, I know this one sucks. But, and I think we're getting a little long in the tooth on this, but let's just wrap this up with, even in turmoil in an industry that needs to be fixed, somehow good shows still come out. And there are still amazing creatives and hardworking animators, writers, editors, like ready and willing to put their talent to work to make a show that they hope you like. Like, I know everyone was ready for Don to be the smash hit of the year, like not just of the season, but of the year. It is still just so good, especially since it's somewhat running adjacent to the Jujutsu Kaisen anime, even though the Jujutsu Kaisen manga ended. Here we have another supernatural show that has really strong characters, amazing animation from Science Saru, a good sense of humor, incredible designs, and of course, as a fan of Ultraman, I spotted all the Ultraman references.
Nice.
Someday we'll have to watch the opening together, and I'll just be like, yeah, there's the Ultraman reference right there. The slug aliens are a parody or homage to the data aliens from Ultraman and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm an Ultraman nerd. I can spot the references. Just the fun, creative take on the supernatural and aliens is so interesting, of how they intertwine with one another. It turns out to be a legit creepy show, especially when you see the first aliens and Turbo Granny. It's a show that's funny, heartfelt, action packed, complex, intricate, and scary.
It has all the ingredients of like a bona fide anime smash hit. And like I completely understand why everyone has like fallen head over heels for this anime.
Like, Teresa, what did you think of Dan Dan?
I mean, excellent from like literally 2 minutes in. But I feel like that's the thing is like when it's right and everything lines up, like you're gonna see it. You're gonna see, and honestly, that was the first one I watched of the season, and I was like, it's gonna be okay. I started with something good, so I think it put me in like a good mood, for the rest of the season. But also, I just think it captures like what we like about anime is like exploring characters who are weird, or you maybe wouldn't see a story about them, and you can do it in such a colorful, like completely mind-blowing way that makes you want to watch every episode. Like that's why I watch anime. So I thought it
No,
was
it's
awesome.
the same. Even like it's so funny because Don Don could easily like I could see some people being turned off by it, or if this was like a lesser show or like manga, being turned off by the whole fact that like the main character gets his dingling and his orbs taken away by Turbo Granny, and Turbo Granny being like, "I'll let you play with my body if you let me take your banana," or like that's what the aliens call it. It's just like we must steal your banana organ, and it's like you do know that's like not what it's called, right? Shut up. We have to get past censorship somehow, buddy.
Exactly.
And yet, it is not a detracting problem from the show because of just the execution of the characters and the drama between them. There's a reason why so many people gushed over, I think, episode 6 or 7 when we encounter one of the spirits that you see in the opening of the show. And then even then, we got like Dragon Ball Daima, which was the last thing Akira Toriyama was working on before he tragically passed, RIP. And it's like, wait a minute. Akira Toriyama just want to make more Dragon Ball, but not like remake Dragon Ball and made a good version of Dragon Ball GT. Like, because this is what it is. This is a good version of Dragon Ball GT where Goku gets turned into a kid, and yet it's not him who just gets turned into a kid.
It's
Every
everyone.
and it's back to him not being the strongest person in the universe and going on adventures to find Dragon Balls. It's the original Dragon Ball series. And for some reason, it works.
This is the most fresh that Dragon Ball has felt since the original. When it was announced, there were a bunch of salty super fans who were like, we want Moro, we want granola, and people not realizing that A, 2024 is the 40th anniversary of the original manga, so we were gonna get something a little bit more special, closer to what that original manga was. And everything from the new characters, exploring a new world, because we were only just briefly introduced to the demon world at towards the end of Z. This takes that concept and runs with it in a fun way. And I'm just happy that this show exists and we got to see the last thing that Toriyama worked on before he passed away.
I mean, I'll say this: like, I know what more people want more Dragon Ball Super and such, but here's my hot take: Dragon Ball runs into the same problem Bleach does, where they bring on these new threats, and the only thing that makes the characters stronger is just like a new form or something like that. And listen, I love Dragon Ball Super superheroes. That's great. But then it's like, oh, so Gohan now has his own Super Saiyan mode, and so does Piccolo, which granted, Piccolo needed that upgrade.
He did.
But it's still like, how many more Super Saiyan levels can there be to take down a stronger threat? Why not do something different? Why not go back to basics? And or you just do like with Ranma Half, where you just remake the original anime series and hopefully you don't run into the same problems the original anime series ran into with a few bad seasons here and there. But it's still like I know it's become popular to hate on the author's work because of like Inuyasha and such, but this remake of Ranma Half was really good. I was so shocked that I was how much the comedy held up for this show. Because you think, oh, a show from the 80s would not age well. There's a reason why so many comedies from the 80s are just like, yikes.
They knew that it was dated. I mean, I hope that's what they were thinking. Maybe they did by accident. But I felt like they knew it was kind of dated It's like from the get-go, they don't want to marry them, and really adding that kind of dialogue and commentary and making it less like, I don't know, like less kooky and more like I want to be the strongest. I want, thing, but I am really bad at it at this point. And I'm like bad with people, I feel like is what the whole goal is. Like they're all bad with people in different ways.
Like it's interesting how I probably heavily prefer the Ranma half remake over the Uritse Yatsura one, mostly because while I like the mean spirited comedy of Yatsura, I think Ranma is funnier as a show overall.
Yeah.
The zany gags and characters are all so pleasant to be around. There's never been a time where I was like, oh, they brought back this character. Oh, you can tell the show was made in the 80s before anime tropes were drilled into the ground. Ugh.
Like the animation, they really stepped it up. I know we always use the asterisks of Mappa, treat your employees better, but credit where credit is due. They did a good job bringing the show to life and even like improving things.
Like, I know some people had like an issue or quote unquote an issue with the nudity and such. And it's just like, you know what? It's fine.
It
The
was not
character, like, if all you cared about in anime is when a character gets naked, just watch porn. Okay, just like,
Yeah,
sorry to burst your bubble and be a buzzkill, but just do that, because Ranma is all about the characters. It wouldn't be an iconic series if everyone didn't care about the characters. Or it's like 365 days to the wedding. I
Yeah.
love our two leads and how they're both introverted and are trying to make this fraud wedding work, even though they are slowly starting to fall for one another. But I like the character. The friends and coworkers around them are a lot of fun. It was frankly really funny to meet the dad of the husband and how he looked like he was going to be really strict, but he's just like, man, my son needs to remember that, like, if he's going to get married, he's going to have to do a lot of stuff. Or like Blue Box took a teen drama and made it slow paced. It's like, it's not my favorite rom com, but I understand the drive of our characters, even if I feel like it needs to speed it up a little.
that was kind of my only real issue with it is it wasn't really well paced, but I understand why this one is kind of pretty beloved.
And then we just get like Mechanical Arms, which just feels like a lesser known or underrated show that would have appeared on Toonami during its like middle of its original lifespan, with the action and how it's just characters with robot arms or guns or something popping out of their bodies and such. It's interesting how it was like an original indie production and they made a pilot for it, and it has a lot of that scrappy, like,
Yeah.
yeah, we don't have the Studio Trigger Science Saru Sakuga stuff, but by God, we're going to make the action as cool as possible still.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done.
Yeah. Or, and like we said earlier, negative positive angler being just a bunch of people like living through life in fishing. I love that anime does this. Like, you can't get a US American cartoon to get greenlit where the main gimmick is fishing. That's what I like about anime. It's just
It can be about anything.
a group of weirdos get together and learn how to fly fish. Cool.
You couldn't pay me to fly fish in real life, but I would love to like watch more of this anime.
Or like Nina the Starry Bride. Like, finally, like a damsel style anime where the lead character is extremely proactive. Not that it never happens, mind you. This It's interesting how anime is like the one medium of animation where having a female lead that is compelling and proactive is not a rare thing to see, but it feels so refreshing when you see it on screen. Like, she's not just letting her kingdom or the kingdom that she's been adopted into leading her life. She is going at it herself. She is making sure she can make it through
Yeah,
this world.
I think
And
Mina might be one of my favorite protagonists of the season because she's a firecracker, that she has so much more agency. And when she learns that, like, there's a plot against the prince or whatever, she's taken it upon herself to get to the bottom of things.
for sure.
did y'all have any other shows that you really loved? Like that you were just like, you know what? Maybe anime wasn't such a mistake.
I mean, yeah, I like really liked 365 Days Till the Wedding. I was like, it can be slow, it can be cute, it can be funny. I like a workplace comedy. I like a fake romance where they start to have feelings for each other. And like, it wasn't anything like, I don't know, it wasn't saying anything like extraordinary, but I did think it was really pushing commentary on like what I had said about the theme of like marriage and like gender expectations because it's like, the woman is like planning everything out really methodically, and he's the one of like, but I can't propose if I don't mean it. And so I just thought that was really sweet, and I was like, this is when it's nice.
I will say, I think it's funny how the boss is overestimating the fact that it's like, listen, you can't have an excuse like for this gig of working in Alaska. She's thinking like having a cat is not an excuse to not relocate to Alaska. I think she doesn't get that people are like, then I'm just gonna quit, man. Do not send me to Alaska.
I would probably feel the same way. Like, it's like, if I don't think the job is that important, yeah, no, I choose my cat over moving to Alaska. I had 365 Days to the Wedding a bit lower on my list of the romance shows, but I think the more I think about it, the more I'm just endeared by the two romantic leads and just how much the entire office that they work at is completely like enthralled and in support of their fake but probably going to be real by the end of the show marriage.
And then like with Magilumiere Magical Girls Incorporated. I don't know, maybe it's just because I liked that Robo Buster or Road Buster anime from I think it was like last year or so. Or it's just my ever dying love for Guard. I like the business perspective of it and how like what goes into making an iconic magical girl look. And even though the green haired guy can be a little bit of a creep
A
or
little
come off
bit.
as one, but you can tell he's just like the drive is not just like, I want to see her in the skimpiest outfit possible. It's no, it's like, no, a good magical girl look has a certain design and execution to it. It's not just a skimpy outfit. And that the CEO just dresses as a magical girl the whole time. It's never questioned. It's like, oh, okay.
It's the most just go with it element of the show.
And I'm
Yeah.
just saying, has no one ever been to an anime convention and not seen at least one guy, maybe in their 30s or 40s, dressing up as like Sailor Moon?
There's always at least one.
Just the dynamic of breaking down the mechanical brooms and the magic and how they take care of monsters and how the first episode is so scathing towards Japanese companies that don't take investigations and what was the term used that like when they're fighting the giant ice monster they don't take inspections seriously because they're like, well, inspections cost money, so we're just not going to do anything about it.
Yeah,
And
they
it's
ask
like,
for that discount. They're like, oh, if you need help, one of us to help you, don't we get a discount? Because they're always thinking about saving money.
yeah, yeah, it's one of those world building things that I love in anime. And I like that even though it's like, yeah, they give these our two leads like short skirts, they still design the dresses in a way to still like cover the back. There's no panty shots or anything like that. And even though like the Ghoul School one just kept making me think about that one Scooby Doo TV special
Oh,
where,
yep.
I mean, it's kind of hard not to think about that
The, the,
special
the
when
titles are just too close.
But even though I generally prefer Welcome to Demon School Arumakun more, I grew to like some of the characters, even though I wish they focused a little more on the female cast instead of just like making it a boys' club for the first few episodes. It still has enough of a zany personality to stand out and be a little fun. Like how they have to do the physical exams, and one of them just happens to be a giant yokai. And they have to like scale him,
That episode was fun.
and how one of the students is just like, yeah, I'm sleeping on top of his head because no one's gonna know I'm up here. Sorry. And just that the fact that the Tanuki has like a really terrible human look, even though that's the point. He's the comedic side character. It's like that whole training sequence in Pompoko where you could tell some of those Tanuki were not doing a good job or hitting those transformation marks. And kudos to the fact that the Tanuki character does not have a oh, I drape my balls over me to transform joke. He just uses a plastic bag to do it. It's one way to get out of having to tell a crass joke, and I think that's a lot of fun. I have my issues with it, but it does enough to where I'm like, oh, okay, I'll probably watch more of this. And I feel like that's just how it is with this season. There's a lot of good stuff, and even some of the good stuff that has flaws in it, I would at least like to see how the rest of it unfolds before I say, no, I'm done.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I, I know I say this every season, and usually it never comes to pass, but this time there's a handful of shows that I sincerely want to see through to the end. And that's basically represented in my top five.
Yeah, so let's get to that. Like overall, a very like I don't know, man. I had a lot more fun talking about this season as we just kind of expanded more upon everything that it had to offer. Since I was kind of ready to come into it being like, this might be the worst season I've ever seen in anime. When it's like, no, that's not true. I've seen worse.
We have definitely seen worse.
So, Teresa, what would your top five be?
It was actually hard to pick one of the magical girls shows to narrow it down, but I can pick five. I have some honorable mentions. Dandadan, obviously, up there, number one. I feel like we can all agree on that one. I also really liked the Magiluminary, like Ink one. I think that one just won me over just because of the comedy more so in that one, and that there's more action sequences. That's just something that I always will like. I'm very heavy on the action category. Kino Koinu Mushroom Pup, but also biased. I have a dog, so it got right to my heart. Ranma and a half for sure. I just think really how it adapted it, I was like blown away by the different animation styles that you saw through it. So that was my four. And then fifth would be Demon Lord 2099. Again, I just like that cyberpunk future stuff, and I just thought he was hilarious trying to use his magic and nobody really like vibing with it, being like, okay, dude, whatever. So that really won me over. Honorable mission is 365 Days to the Wedding, Acro Trip, Mecha Ude. Really almost made it to the top five, but Magilumiere, Magical Girls just won out. And for the isekai or fantasy ones, I did like some of them, Nina Starry Bride and Do Over Damsel.
By the way, I think the one of the things I loved about Demon Lord 2099 was the fact like by the time I stopped watching like the three episodes, they were like, "Oh my god, are the Demon Lord and the hero going to team up?" And
Yeah,
I think that's a very fun angle to run on.
exactly.
So, Mike, what are your top five?
So obviously, Danny Dan's going to be number one. I have number two is probably going to be Ranma Half. Number three is Dragon Ball Daima, because duh. Number four is Magilumiere, Magical Girls. And number five is Demon Lord 2099. For honorable mentions, I'm gonna have to give a shout out to things like Nina the Starry Bride, the other magical girl shows like Acro Trip and the stories of girls who couldn't be magicians. Other honorable mentions, Mecha Ude and 365 Days to the Wedding.
I think mine was a little easier to narrow down into a top five, but as I finally started diving into the good shows, it was like, oh no, this is going to be tough. I think, yeah, obviously Don Don, negative positive angler, because I just love this team and I think they make constantly great shows. Magic Lumiere, Magical Girls Incorporated just has everything that I like in a good take on the magical girl genre. Let's see. God, this is tough. Ranma Half, and I'm a little surprised that I didn't see more people putting this in their top 10, but I'm going to put in Orb on the movement of the Earth as
Well,
my fifth.
I might have to move Orb up because I really did enjoy that one.
My honorable mentions are going to go to like Dragon Ball Daima, which I wish the animation looked a little better for this being like the big celebration title. Like, you think Toei would get like the best of the best to make this look as incredible as ever, but it just looks like more Dragon Ball for better and for worse. 365 Days to the Wedding is also an honorable mention. Yakuza Fiance, mostly because the drama between the marriage and the politics of the different Yakuza clans make it really interesting. I do not buy the fact that they are teenagers.
Oh,
I
no, absolutely not.
They are those designs are young adults. It's
Yeah, it's skewing pretty old, especially in the nightclub scene.
yeah, it's like no, and the fact that the third episode opens up with cunnilingus. So
I really wish that show would have been better if they were just young adults.
I really wanted them to be young adults. So it's kind of sad that still my favorite Yakuza based anime is a Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting and then Way of the House Husband still. So at least it's not a what was that one from last year or so where it was the creepy age gap romance. And
Yes,
Oh,
we don't speak
yeah,
on that one.
yeah, we don't
Yeah.
speak about that one.
yeah, no.
Yeah, Acro Trip is an honorable mention. I think it's really funny, though. I think it has the possibility to burn out its premise the fastest among the magic girl anime. And so that means like, yeah, the stories of girls who couldn't be magicians is on there. Nina, the Starry Bride. If How I Attended an All Guys Mixer didn't have so much gay panic, I would have bumped it higher. But I still liked it. And A Terrified Teacher at Ghoul School by the end of it won me over, but still I prefer Welcome to Demon School of Rumakun. And Mushroom Pup, I just think there's just a simply like a weird juxtaposition of this Sanrio looking little character helping our main character move on and start living a new life. And I just can't get over it. It's such a good show. And yet this character should be like with Hello Kittyans or something like that.
It's definitely one of the biggest surprises of the season, which shows like this are why I love doing these seasonal impressions because we get to be surprised by these like
Yeah.
oddball titles.
And it's like that's why I like doing it because I know we're always like, oh God, man, here we go, 2 months, and then we have to do this all again. But then it's like, you know what? What a fun little journey that we went through. And
Yeah.
whatever happens next, let's just hope that we just keep getting more good anime. Let's hope that the industry fixes itself. And let's get those dubs.
That's right.
Yes.
So that'll be it for this anime podcast. This was, like I said, a lot more fun in a really surprising year of anime. Like, I found
Yeah.
myself wanting to watch more anime than I normally do. And I found myself finishing more anime than usual. Like, Delicious in Dungeon is still probably my favorite anime of the year next to Dandadan. And I can't wait to see what the new year brings.
Same. I even forgot that Delicious in Dungeon kicked off this year because the start of 2024 felt like an eternity ago.
Yeah. It's the longest year.
Oh God, it's going to feel even longer as we move on into what's going to happen in real life. So,
Hopefully
anyway,
that's what it's for.
yeah. Well, that'll be it for this episode.
Until next time, Teresa, where can everyone find you online?
You can find me on most platforms at Teresa Electro.
And Cameron?
You can find me on well, now we have to start changing everything up because you can still find me on Twitter, but you can mostly find me on Blue Sky and Instagram and at Cam's Eye View. I run my own website called camseyeview.biz where I review animated films and shows from around the world called The Other Side of Animation. And you can, if you want to, and consider supporting my Patreon at patreon.com/camseyeview. That's where you can find me.
And you guys can find me on various social media sites at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/Coach K42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Blue Sky at Ren Pop Culture. You can also find us on YouTube, on Podchaser. Consider supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. You need an escape, so do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.